Shador Sanders is capturing all eyes at Cleveland Browns OTAs to the point that ESPN Cleveland dropped another stat sheet from Browns OTAs, covering all four quarterbacks in the Browns quarterback situation, so to speak, as well as Kimberly Anderson, reporter, saying that there are people within the Browns building that believe Shedeur can 100% be the starter coming from a fifth-round pick. That's real interesting. I don't know how much weight I put into that, but luckily for us, I have Cleveland Browns reporter for the Akron Beacon Journal, Chris Easterling, joining the show to break down the Cleveland Browns quarterback situation. I'll waste no further time bringing our main man, Chris Easterling. Chris, how are you doing, my man? I can't thank you enough for joining.
Hey, glad to be on. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. And your boots in the ground in Cleveland, so to speak. And let's talk some Browns quarterbacks here. Browns OTAs are underway, open OTAs, and ESPN Cleveland dropped another OTA stat sheet. Now, I don't put any weight into this covering.
I don't either. I will stop you right here. This is anybody who knows football will tell you that this right here is meaningless, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, we're talking about helmets and shorts. We're talking about no rush. I mean, just a variety of different reasons why that these numbers may have no meaning. There's no context to them. So,
yeah, exactly.
I will say Shedeur yesterday looked really good. Well, I thought his best day in terms of we've only seen him 2 rookie minicamp days and one OTA day, 2 OTA days now.
Yeah.
And I thought this was the best, which is what you want to say. You want to see the most recent one be the best one.
Definitely.
It was also the one where he did 11 on 11. Short with some red zone 11 on 11. He did more 7 on 7. It was just a more of an exposure to the number one defense, to guys like Jerry Jeudy, that sort of thing. So, it's the type of progress you want to see, but it's June 4th, or today's June 5th. That was June 4th. Pump the brakes. There's a lot of football. There's still a lot of development. And I think that's what the Browns believe in him. They like him. He's firmly in this conversation, in this competition. But I think that with everything with both rookies, actually, it's let's pump the brakes. There's so much more than a clip here, a clip there. There's meetings, there's picking up the offense, and there'll be plenty of time to figure this thing out and for this thing to sort out. We don't have to declare winners when we're 15 minutes into the movie, so to speak.
No doubt. Now, let me ask you, looking at the Cleveland Browns quarterback situation, you got 4 quarterbacks here. Personally, going into this, I thought Joe Flacco, I thought it was his job to lose. Now I'm hearing reports about Kenny Pickett, and he's taking the first team reps. Can you kind of break down the kind of how the reps are going around, so to speak, for the quarterbacks and the truth about the Browns quarterback situation from what you've heard?
Think of them in two different silos. You have the 2 experienced guys, the 2 guys who have been in the league before, in Joe and Kenny, and then you have the 2 rookies. And I think they sort of view them 1A in one group and 1A in the other group. I don't think there's. My guess is it's a question of what do they think, what do they really want to accomplish, and there is a. Andrew Berry spoke to a group of us at owners meetings in March, and he was asked about the composition of the quarterback room, and he thought it would skew younger.
Okay.
Now you take that as younger, not just in age, but I mean, look, Kenny, despite having 24, 25 career starts, is still a young guy. He's going to be 27. I think it might be tomorrow. I mean, I think I can't remember. I think it's during the summer. So that's still a young guy who's still got room to prove himself. He was also the first one of these 4 to be added to the roster.
Yeah.
They went out and traded for him on the first day of free agency. They could have acquired Joe Flacco on that day, but they didn't. They chose Kenny first. And so I think that's why they sort of, and I think that was part of a bigger plan that might have included, hey, we go out, we get Russell Wilson, because they had Russell Wilson on it. I mean, it's there's a lot of, sort of tentacles to this, or pieces to this, but this is where they're at, and I would not be surprised if it's Kenny Pickett. Now, Joe Flacco has looked the better of the two but I mean, I think that we would all assume that Joe Flacco at 40 years old, the Super Bowl MVP, would be the one that would look the best. I mean, he's still 40 years old, though. He can throw it over the mountains.
Yeah, definitely. I'm a big fan of Joe Flacco. I really like them bringing him back. Just two reasons. One, you got two young quarterbacks that he can mentor. He's already come out and said that he doesn't want to mentor more, wants them to learn by example, which I think is great, especially in Shador Sanders' case. But the other thing, recency bias. He just led the Cleveland Browns to a playoff run or playoff appearance, at least, so to speak, recently. Now, in your eyes, who is the odd man out in the Browns quarterback room? Is it too early to say? I've had debates here with several, Super Bowl champion Sean King, Alcorn State coach Leroy Frederick about will the Browns keep 4 quarterbacks come the season?
I'm wondering. Didn't mean to interrupt you there.
Okay.
I'm wondering if it ultimately comes down to one of the veterans. They're hoping both of the veterans play well enough. Again, I'm using veteran. I don't know what you would call Kitty. We'll call him a veteran. He's been around long enough. I think they're hoping both of them show enough that they can trade one of them.
Okay.
Looking at the Saints, looking at who somebody's good. There's going to be a quarterback issue that pops up somewhere in the league during training camp. I think that's what they'd ultimately like to go. Their goal would be. And then keep both of these rookies here to see if one of these guys can develop. In a perfect world, they play Kenny Pickett or Joe Flacco all of 25. Those two get to sit there, they get to learn, they get to develop. And then, in 26, you see what you have. But adding to that then is those 2 first-round draft picks they have in 26, where the quarterback class – I mean, it could be very good. And you could really, truly find your franchise quarterback, taking nothing away from what Shedeur or even Dillon could do. But, you're looking like a Cade Klubnik or, I'm a Garrett Nussmeier guy, but,
absolutely.
But again, it's way too early to say who the flavor really is going to be by draft day. But, I think that's all part of this. It's why it's so – it's the micro way that everybody is sort of looking at this thing, and I'm not saying you, but in general, they're looking at this day in, day out. It's like, can we just step back? And there's so much. There's such a much bigger. We're missing the forest through the trees. I really think, and that all of this, and this is again just I think all 3 quarterbacks who make the roster will play this season and start.
Okay.
Because I think all it will take is a slow start. And you look at their schedule, the front half of their schedule sets right up for 2-6, 1-7 if they don't come out of the gate strong.
Right.
They got a bye in week 9, which is a perfect time to say we're flipping quarterbacks. We're giving one of the rookies an opportunity, and if that rookie doesn't show, and then you give it's a rite of passage in Cleveland that we go 2 or 3 quarterbacks, 4 quarterbacks deep in a season anyway. So
absolutely. I got you. Now, that's interesting. I share your same sentiment, especially with Kenny Pickett. I always thought his connection with Kellen Moore, playing for Kellen Moore last season, the Saints seemed to need a quarterback at some point. Then Derek Carr retired. They only got Tyler Shook and Rattler on the roster, from what I understand, and Jake Hayner, I believe, as well. Asking me, I thought Kenny Pickett was the odd man out. Now this is something to watch, and I don't put any weight into this report really, but Kimberly Anderson said there are people within the Browns building that say Shedeur can be 100% be the starter. Now, looking at week 1, there's no way that any of these rookies are starting day 1, right? There's no way, right?
No, that's what I say. I go back to there's 2 different competitions I think kind of going on.
Yeah.
That are all part of one competition, if that makes any sense, is that they want to see all of them compete. And hey, if one of those rookies pops, then I think you look at it and say, well, look what we found. Yeah. But I think they're more realistic in look, we got these two veterans. We're going to let them compete, and who wins that gets the starting job. But these guys are fighting for which way they ended up on the depth chart behind that guy. So, that's why, I just keep on Pickett or Flacco. And the best thing that can happen for these two, for Shedeur and Dillon, is that they just every day take a step, much like, just in the couple of times we've seen Shedeur especially take a step forward. And, he had a throw yesterday that in the short red zone that was really impressive. It was the best throw I've seen in the 4 times we've had a chance to watch him. I mean, it's just, you see progression, but next week's mini camp is going to be fascinating because it's 3 straight days. You get to see sort of an evolution through the course of a week. And I think that's going to be big to at least set the table for where they go in late July when training camp starts.
No doubt. And I have a question from Ohio native yourself. You've seen the carousel, so to speak, of Cleveland Browns quarterbacks. When it comes to media impact and just coverage of the Cleveland Browns, can you discuss Shador Sanders' impact on that? Because I don't think an OTA stat sheet comes out unless Shador Sanders is there. I think that speaks, so to speak, to his impact. But is his impact in the Cleveland media bigger than Johnny Manziel's was when he arrived about 10 years ago?
Johnny Manziel was a first-round draft pick. Johnny Manziel was a phenomenon, and Johnny Manziel is the closest thing you have to. I wasn't on the beat when Johnny was there, but a lot of the beat are the same people. And I asked them, and they go, in some ways, this is even crazier because social media is so much. Even in, when Johnny came in 2014, social media was big, but I don't know. It's not 20. I mean, that's 11 years.
Yeah.
And I mean, he is just, it is every little thing, just everything you say, like right now, somebody will clip something and, if you say something positive about Shedeur, it's, look at this. If you say something negative about Shedeur, it's look at that. And it's just crazy. So I understand it. I mean, and the biggest thing is the kid himself. And I say kid because, I'm 48 and he's in his early 20s. He's done everything right in terms of from a football perspective, from handling himself when he's in the building. His teammate Joe and Kenny couldn't stop raving about the way he conducted himself, the questions he asked. So there's just so much to that end. Sometimes I think the circus, we throw the big top up, and then we're stunned when the elephants and the lions and everything show up.
Yeah.
Shedeur's done everything he's asked, and from a football perspective, he's handled himself like you would hope a rookie, a prominent rookie, but a rookie nonetheless, would come in and he's asking questions. You see him interact with both Joe and Kenny regularly. You see him talking to receivers. You see him talking to the coaches, Bill Musgrave and Tommy Reese, and especially. I mean, that's what you want to see. Those are the type of interactions you want to see, which shows me that for all the hoopla and everything around him, Shador Sanders is, as one would expect, he's focused on the field. He's focused on getting better, and he's focused on actually proving that teams were wrong for passing on him, for him falling, and that he is, he can be the guy, the answer at quarterback and play in this league.
Absolutely. And I got a chance to cover Shedeur last season for covering Colorado Buffaloes with my main man, Matt McChesney, former Colorado Buff, 6-year NFL veteran over at 0 to 60. I love Shedeur. I think he's a tough kid, played with not so great offensive lines in his college career. Every time he would get knocked down, he would spit blood out of his mouth, out of his $100,000 grill, and respond. That was my favorite thing about him. You brought up Tommy Reese, the OC in Cleveland. Here's his comments on Shedeur's performance so far. Take a look.
Look, he's worked his tail off. He's really put in a lot of work, as was like all those guys are. But You could tell on the mental side of the game and learning the system and calling it and having that rhythm to it. He's put a lot of work and time and effort into that. And then when you do that, the game starts to slow down and you can focus on finding completions. And he's done a nice job of that as camp's progressed.
And I really like hearing that. And Shedeur, he's gotten a lot of knock for his pre-draft interviews. I've certainly talked about it with Matt McChesney. One thing I will highlight from him in his career, he's had 6 OCs, so that ain't easy. That's a lot of transitioning at a young age. Go ahead. What are your thoughts?
No, and I think that's something. I think that's something that's been underrated in terms of part of the learning curve is the number of OCs he's gone through. Is just transitioning to everything that goes into taking in an NFL offense.
Right.
Especially one kind of off of that Shanahan, Kubiak offensive tree. That's a lot. That's a lot of terminology. That's a lot. In Colorado and even at Jackson State, it was a lot of
simple
calls, and that's not a knock on Shedeur because that's common. I mean, you're seeing that a lot in college with quarterbacks who come in with the kind of offenses they're running in college to come into the pros. So it's just a learning curve that they think he can definitely scale, but it's a process, and I think that's the biggest thing is the word patience has to come in here, and in some ways it's just from all sides. It's like I get the enthusiasm behind Shedeur. I understand it, and it's coming from a good place. But some people just let him grow.
Yes. Pump the brakes a little bit. Yes.
Just let him develop. Let him grow. He's not nobody's holding him back. He's getting an opportunity. But it has to happen naturally. You can't force Tom Brady in his 5th OTA would not have looked like Tom Brady in his 5th year in the NFL.
Absolutely not.
Pick a quarterback over in his 5th OTA would have looked like a guy in his 5th looked like he was like, just can I tap out? Can I have some help? Can I have some oxygen here? And that's why I say Shedeur, he's learning. You can tell he's learning. He's doing the right things by his teammates, by his coaches, by the organization, and that's all you need. That the chips football will become. They'll start playing football in July. The kind of football we know, and he's got joint practices against Carolina and Philly. He'll get a full half. My guess is he'll get a full half against Philly in a preseason game because they have 2 joint practices before that game. So my guess is that the 2 rookies will each get a half so that they can, really have an opportunity. He's going to get opportunities.
Yeah, absolutely.
And if it's not day one, that doesn't mean it's not going to be he's not the starter day one. It doesn't mean it's not going to happen. It just means God works in a mysterious way, as his dad would probably tweet out.
Absolutely, Chris. And Chris, you're getting your first look at the Colorado Buffaloes fan base. We call them the people I work with, the prime sexuals. They're very sensitive. They're very quick to annoy and jump at like Shedeur should be starting day one. Shedeur should be starting on week 1. I'm like, folks, pump your brake. This is the Cleveland Browns in the NFL. We don't want Shedeur just get thrown out there.
And I think, and I don't want to, I apologize cutting you off again.
Okay.
I think we do this with not just Shedeur, but a lot of young quarterbacks.
Yeah, that's true.
There was a time where you said, look, yeah, he's got talent, but do we need him to start? Yes, Peyton Manning, I think, started but Patrick Mahomes didn't start week 1.
Did not. Alex Smith was the starter.
Smith was the starter. There's Jalen Hurts didn't start day 1.
True.
There's a number of guys who haven't started day 1. They got to sit back. They got to get themselves comfortable as much as anything. And then when the time was right, they went out there and you the product speaks for itself.
Absolutely.
you cook something too fast and take it out of the oven it doesn't turn out right?
Well said. Yes, absolutely. Well said. And you brought up, Shedeur playing in Colorado's offense last season, even going back to Jackson State. I'll just highlight Colorado last season. I can tell you firsthand. They played 10 personnel probably 85-90% of the time. And when they did run the ball, it wasn't anything creative. They barely brought a tight end, and it was always very simplistic. And that was our biggest criticism was we never got to see any variation in the run game. Never got to see motion. You never got to see anything that would take pressure off of Shador Sanders, the quarterback. Now, him going to Cleveland, I hope he develops and doesn't get thrown out there right away. But that's the one thing I can kind of, harp on, so to speak, is Cleveland will run the ball. Cleveland will, do the things to help take care of Shedeur and not, because Colorado's offense under Pat Sherman last season, very vanilla, Chris. Very vanilla. Great point.
One, we're very familiar with Pat Shermer's offense. We saw it for 2 years.
I didn't even think about that. Yeah.
2, you mentioned the run game, and I'm glad you brought this up because whoever the quarterback is, but especially if Shedeur does get the opportunity this year, he's going to have an offensive line in front of him, assuming health. 3 Pro Bowlers in Bitonio, Teller, and Conklin.
Mm-hmm.
The interior, Bitonio, Posich, and Teller are all solid players. DeJuan Jones, if he can stay healthy, has the look of a guy who can play tackle.
Mm-hmm.
And then you got offensive coaches in Stefanski and Reese who are going to run the ball. And you've got a good group of running backs in Quinshon Judkins, Dillon Sampson, Jerome Ford, Pierre Strong. I know none of them are Nick Chubb right now, but they think Quinshon Judkins,
good player, man.
He's a good football player there. And that takes pressure off of the quarterback. Like you said, if you can turn a hand the ball off, that's when the Browns have won 11 games, whether it was with Baker Mayfield or even when they did it in 23 when Joe came in and it was run the ball well, good offensive line, and a solid defense.
Mm-hmm.
And those pieces are there for this team. And if you get all that, I think that's something that can, again, take the pressure off of whoever the quarterback is, but, especially if it ends up at some point becoming Shedeur.
Absolutely. That makes me pretty excited, Chris, to watch these Cleveland Browns. We're almost to the season, June 5th, getting closer. Chris, it's been an absolute honor. I can't thank you enough for joining my show here on this beautiful Thursday. Love to have you on again soon as we get closer to the season. Browns got mini camp next week. I can't wait to see, this quarterback battle play out. I'm sure we'll get another OTA stat sheet. Shout out to ESPN in Cleveland, I'm sure. But Chris, it's been an absolute honor. I can't thank you enough for joining, my man.
Hey, I can't thank you enough for asking me on.
Absolutely, man. Have a great Thursday, my man. Shout out to my main man, Chris Easterling, covers the Cleveland Browns reporter over at, this is breaking news as well. Shout out to Chris Easterling for joining the show, main man, but we got breaking news here on Bailey Price Media Live. Aaron Rodgers has officially signed with the Pittsburgh Steelers, coming from Ari Miroff. Wow. Okay. That's real interesting. Breaking news. Shout out to John Lelik in the chat. Yes, that is breaking news. Aaron Rodgers is now a Pittsburgh Steeler, and that is real interesting. We covered this on the show last week. Wow. Okay, so that changes a lot in the AFC North here, so to speak. We've talked about this extensively here with Coach Fred, Sean King, and I said a few days ago I thought Tomlin was going to play hardball and roll with Mason Rudolph, but Aaron Rodgers, are you a Steeler or not? The answer is yes. Aaron Rodgers is officially signed with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Wow. Steelers fan John Lelik in the chat. Let us know in the chat how you feel. Are you a fan of this? Are you kind of bittersweet? It's June 5th. Do you think Aaron, he's a Super Bowl champion, but playing forever, veteran. I don't have no doubt he can't pick up the system. It is June 5th, though. Now, what this screams to me, I don't know the Steelers' offseason schedule, but I'd like to know when their mandatory OTAs and minicamp are, because it's certainly, I don't know what Aaron Rodgers had to do. We remember the fiasco with the Jets last season. about him missing mandatory minicamp and Robert Saleh giving him all these problems. But now ahead of Steelers minicamp next week, Aaron Rodgers is officially signed with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Wow. Man, so if you think about that Steelers wide receiver room, now Aaron Rodgers, got DK Metcalf, they got Roman Wilson, they got Pat Freiermuth, the tight end, Jalen Warren at running back. They also signed, I believe, big Gus Edwards, big running back, him coming over from the LA Chargers. This is, man. Looking at the AFC North, I mean, it's hard to say. I mean, that's going to be a competitive division looking at it. You got Lamar Jackson and the Ravens returning. You know, they're going to be formidable. Obviously got Derrick Henry, which takes all the pressure off Lamar Jackson. There's a reason you see Lamar Jackson put up the numbers he does. You got Burrow and the Bengals, who I expect to reload and be just as formidable. I mean, damn, I don't know. And then Aaron Rodgers and the Steelers. I don't think that's going to be the best division in that side of the conference. I don't know. I think the AFC West and the Chiefs division is going to be the best, but man, that is kind of a shocker. Just because I thought, you know, he'll sign a 1-year deal, so this is a 1-year stopgap. Obviously, the Steelers got Will Howard they drafted. They got Mason Rudolph on the roster as well. If Aaron Rodgers doesn't, you know, pan out, which let me make this very clear. Regardless of how long it took Aaron Rodgers to sign with the Steelers, I think he'll be just fine in Pittsburgh. I think Mike Tomlin if personality and, you know, his antics are a concern to you, I think Mike Tomlin can more than handle that. I have no doubt about Mike Tomlin handling Aaron Rodgers. Aaron, you give Aaron Rodgers the weapons, you give Aaron Rodgers a run game because you know they're going to run the ball in Pittsburgh. I know they're big fans of Jalen Warren. Gave him a lot of burn last season, and now I expect him to be their premier back and they use Gus Edwards on the goal line here. But looking at that division, the Steelers, I mean, have to be competing with the Ravens right now to be top dogs in that division. I mean, I can't speak for Steeler fans, but I mean, you got to be pretty damn happy as a Steeler fan. You get Aaron Rodgers for 1 year, hopefully coming in with the right mindset here. Him and DK Metcalf, I think they're about to put up numbers this season. Pat Freiermuth is a great stopgap, great safety blanket for Aaron Rodgers, so to speak. They got the other big tight end cat that looks like an offensive tackle who can hurdle over people. Washington kid played at Georgia. Got him in that tight end room as well. Man, okay. You got Calvin Austin coming back, hopefully, as well. Man, Steeler fans, how do you feel about it? We heard Cam Hayward in the offseason talk about Aaron Rodgers, go get out of the dark and make a decision whether you're signing or not. 2 months later, he does sign today. That's breaking news. Wow, that is surprising here. Aaron Rodgers and DK, Pittsburgh. Let's go back to some Shador Sanders talk here. I can't thank you guys all enough for tuning in. If you're watching, folks, hit that like button, subscribe, become a member of the Bailey Price Media Army. Can't thank you enough for tuning in here. Man, going back to Shedeur here, I'll close it out at this. And I told Chris this. There wouldn't be an OTA stat sheet if it wasn't for Shador Sanders. That is a Shador Sanders impact when it comes to media. ESPN Cleveland knows damn well making an OTA stat sheet is going to be news, so to speak. I mean, shit, I'm talking about it here. Man, now my prediction coming to the Browns quarterback situation is this. It all depends on if Shedeur can beat out Dillon Gabriel. If Shedeur can beat out Dillon Gabriel, I expect Shedeur Sanders to start for Cleveland Browns at some point this season. If he can't beat out Dillon Gabriel or if he's competing with them all season, I wouldn't expect to see Shedeur Sanders at all. I ultimately think they should go with Flacco. I'm a big Flacco fan. He's been there and done that as a Super Bowl champion, won a Super Bowl MVP like Chris mentioned. Kenny Pickett, I think, will be eventually traded possibly to the Saints. Like I mentioned, you got the Kellen Moore connection, but several other teams he could be going to as well. But Shedeur, keep working, keep grinding, and man, you better keep balling because all eyes are on Shedeur. Shocking in Cleveland Browns OTA. Folks, I can't thank you all enough for tuning in. If you're watching, go ahead and hit that like button, subscribe, become a member of the Bailey Price Media Army. I'll be live tomorrow with Matt McChesney over on 0 to 60, obviously today. And then yesterday we were off on 0 to 60, so we've been live here on Bailey Price Media Live, grinding here. As we get closer to the season, I'm so excited for football season, folks. I can't wait. But if you hit that like button, become a member, and I'll see you guys maybe doing a special Saturday show with very, very special guests. Have to stay tuned for that, but can't thank you all enough for watching, and I'll see you guys tomorrow on 0 to 60 with Big Matt McChesney. Peace.